Hello and welcome, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Matt Gets It podcast. This is a sports debate show discussing the biggest sports topics. I'm your host, Matt Martinez. Once again, with me is my man, Billy Ryan, and we got multiple topics to discuss today, folks. But first things first, Billy, how you doing?
Doing well. Just got off work. Finally ready to do the good stuff. You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying, taking a break from work as well, getting to talk about some sports with you. It's always a great time, you know what I mean?
Every time.
Uh, Speaking of those topics, Billy, we got the latest from the MLB regular season and which players are trending up and which players are trending down. It'll be a good discussion there. Very interesting player who is unfortunately going in the opposite way of what we thought he was going to be. We'll get further into that here briefly. We also got more NFL offseason news and most notably, some extensions given out in the Bay Area. We also got an update on the WNBA regular season, the players and teams who are off to hot starts. Plus, we also got an update on the ongoing NBA playoffs. Billy, our first topic of the day is going to be the WNBA. The Minnesota Lynx and their star player Napheesa Collier are off to terrific starts. The Lynx are 4-0 altogether. They are averaging 87.3 points per game and only allowing 77.5. Uh, the aforementioned Collier, the reigning defensive player of the year, Billy, she is playing terrific basketball. She is currently averaging 29.5 points a game, 7.3 rebounds, 1.8 steals, and 1.3 blocks per game. So talk about getting it done on both sides of the court. Billy, I would just like to hear your quick general thoughts on the Lynx and Collier.
No, I think it's refreshing to hear, that they're getting it done on both sides of the ball. I think for a minute we were talking a lot about just offensive stats, especially with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese going into this upcoming year. So refreshing to hear the defensive stats of the ball. I think in my mind, when I do think of all around great players, I do think of both sides of the ball. So I think she's obviously got what it takes to, perform at such a high level and probably be a dominant force in the next few years to come.
Yeah, definitely. And when we talk about Collier, we're talking about versatile forward folks who can do a multitude of things out there on the court. She can score off the dribble, she can face up, she can score off the bounce. Uh, her cutting ability is great. She's terrific off the ball. Like we said, she's a forward, so she's not really, being the primary playmaker. That's Courtney Williams, another terrific player in her own right. But Collier is lanky, she's quick, she's agile, she's able to defend arguably 1 through 4, even some fives depending on her size. I mean, and she holds her own. Like I said, Billy, she's averaging 1.8 steals a game right now, 1.3 blocks. So she's able to get stops in multiple different ways, and not only get the stops, she then turns those stops into buckets on the other end. So shout out to the Lynx and the Fisa Collier doing their thing right now. They were the runner-ups this past year. They made it to the finals, lost to the Liberty. That was a great series. I'm sure Minnesota's going to be in the thick of the playoff push once the 40 game season is up. So stay tuned for that, folks. Keep an eye on Napheesa Collier. She got MVP votes last year. I mean, she was the defensive player of the year, but I mean, she could have won the MVP. That was a very tight race. That's for a previous discussion, but
And I also think, like, obviously she is a little bit under the radar in terms of, players on the court right now. So she's not getting the amount of recognition that she does just with, some of the stuff that's going on, just the chatter around the WNBA. But I think you hit a spot on the head. Like, she is going to be, that force to be reckoned with. She, like you were saying, she can attack the paint, she can shoot a little bit, and she's going to play the defensive side of the ball. And, like you're saying, she could guard through 1 through 4, and depending on the size matchup, a 5 even. So you want that person who can play or defend all positions on the court. So right on.
yeah, and it's crazy, but I agree with you that she's a little bit under the radar in some aspect, which is hard to believe because Billy, she's so the 50-40-90 club, right, in the NBA,
Yep.
like how prestigious that is and like being an excellent shooter. Let me tell you her shooting splits right now currently, Billy. So she's shooting 56.2% from the field overall. On three pointers, she's shooting 53.8%, and she's shooting 93.5% from the charity stripe.
So she's flipping a coin when shooting the ball that it's going in. That
Yeah,
ball is going in.
it's more oftentimes than not, it's going in. You know what I mean?
I know. At
Talk,
that point, like you're just like, hey, give her more touches. Give her the ball. Like we need to see more. That. Those are some crazy stats. I had no idea.
yeah, talk about efficiency. She's 50-50-90. 50% from the three-point line is crazy. I mean, granted, it's only 4 games into the year for them, but still, like for her player with her usage rate, right? We're talking about somebody who's scoring 30 points a game.
Hey, she's like you were saying. Like I think she's going to get more MVP votes, especially this year. Especially like with Caitlin Clark being out some of whatever games. I think this is her chance to maybe take over some of that spotlight.
Yeah, definitely. And that is a tremendous segue, Billy, right there, mentioning Caitlin Clark being out. So, breaking news over the Memorial weekend, folks. Caitlin Clark has sustained a quad injury, which will keep her out at least 2 weeks or a minimum of 4 games. The reigning Rookie of the Year is currently averaging 19 points per game. And on top of that, Billy, Clark also leads the league in assists. She's dishing out 9.3 assists a game, and she is fourth in three-pointers made. She's currently hitting just under three-pointers a game, so 2.8 trays a game. A little bit of a tongue twister to say there, but uh, Billy, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the Fever and Clark uh, with her injury and her being out. How do you think the Fever will respond going forward?
Um, I think obviously they need to have some players step up. It just ultimately like I know she's a huge part of that, but she is not the whole team. I think she's made that clear in her interviews as well that basketball is a team game and she's got to stick up with her teammates and her teammates stick out with her. I think we need some just more people kind of stepping up and like obviously that is a huge blow to the offensive side of the ball. But ultimately it's going to give more people more opportunities to shoot and maybe even get to a great rhythm going in. Like I think it is a good thing that happened early in the season. Like you'd hate to see Caitlin Clark go out the last 4 games of the season. And then potentially whatever playoff implications that might hold. So it is. I think it is going to be a good thing. I think like 5 games isn't going to kill the Fever from dropping so many games. Even if they lost every game, they're still going to be able to
Hmm.
get back into the hunt later in the season. My apologies. So I think it's going to be a good thing. I think it's going to be a good thing to a sense for the Fever that they're going to be able to understand how their team plays without Caitlin Clark if the situation happens again. But I ultimately think Caitlin Clark has the confidence in her team to get the job done. So I think obviously with her being out. Tough. I'm sure it's going to be a mental impact on her even coming back and getting back into whatever rhythm she needs to get. But like I said, I think it's going to be a good thing for the Fever to kind of show where they need to be in as a team without maybe their key contributor.
Yeah, and like you said, they're going to need players to step up. And the way the roster is currently constructed, they have an abundance of players that are able to do so. You talk about one of the most prolific scorers from off the bounce standpoint in Kelsey Mitchell. She is a lightning spark out there. Like she is so quick and dynamic, the way she's able to get to the rim. Um, when she's in isolation, even in the pick and roll game, if they switch, she's able to get by those opposing forwards. And Aaliyah Boston, who has kind of had an emergence now in her third year, she is playing tremendous basketball. She looks like one of the most versatile scorers in the pick and roll game. And I mean, arguably that could be a large part due to Caitlin Clark and her playmaking ability, right, Billy? But nonetheless, Aaliyah Boston is still being able to make plays out of those short rolls, those dive cuts. She's finding the weak side shooter. She's using her footwork to create separation. She's finding the openings to get those little floaters off. So Aaliyah Boston is definitely a player and person who could step up along with Kelsey Mitchell to fill that void in with Caitlin being out. And another player who they could rely heavily on is the veteran that they brought in, DeWanna Bonner,
Right.
and Natasha Howard. But specifically, when we talk about DeWanna Bonner, someone who has been in the league a long time, someone who's been deep in playoff runs, and who is now the third leading scorer all time in the WNBA, that is definitely a key piece for them, someone they could rely on.
Agree.
The great thing, too, along with that, is Bonner has yet to really hit her stride up to this point in the year. Like we're saying, still only 4 games in, but through those 4 games, she hasn't really fit in necessarily. So maybe this could be the opportunity, get her more in a rhythm, getting her more shots, get her being able to find her in her spots that she's been so prolific at and established at. So
I agree. I think you hit that one on the head. I guess my question to you, do you think the game plan changes a whole lot going into these next 4 or 5 games?
I don't think the game plan necessarily changes too much. I mean, obviously, it's gonna like shot close game situation, like Caitlin's gonna have the ball in her hand. So now we're gonna find it's gonna probably go to Kelsey Mitchell. It's gonna have the ball in her hand, and then now the rotation maybe is gonna be a little bit different depending on who I believe Coach White puts in. So she could either go Sophie Cunningham, she could go reinsert Bonner back into the starting lineup. I know this last game they had Lexi Hull start, so it just depends, you know. So we'll see. I mean, they could even bring in Sydney Colson, who's the backup point guard. She could just slide into that starting role, and that way it keeps the other rotation intact. You know what I mean? But
True.
in terms of the game plan, I think you're going to see a lot less threes because Caitlin Clark is obviously a volume shooter from behind the
Right.
arc. So I think that would be the biggest tweak is just like maybe the amount of threes going up, but more or less they're still going to run the same sets. It's just going to be Kelsey Mitchell probably now sliding into the uh, 1 and 2 woman game with Aaliyah Boston as opposed to Clark in Boston.
Right.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that, folks. Hopefully, Clark only misses those 2 weeks like it's now being reported. Left quad strain. Watching their last game, it didn't seem like it hindered her too much. So it must have been, obviously something afterwards that really like probably like got aggravated, right, Billy? Like
Right.
when everything settled, the adrenaline and all that stuff. But moving on, folks. But we are keeping it basketball related. We're moving on to the NBA, and the 2024-25 NBA MVP was announced, and it went to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Congratulations to him. I know Billy has mixed feelings on that, which we will get into here shortly. SGA is the first guard to win the award, Billy, since 2017-2018, when it went to James Harden. SGA now becomes the second Canadian-born player to be the NBA MVP, joining Steve Nash, who was a two-time MVP, Billy, and went back-to-back. So he won it in 2004-05 and then 05-06. Shout out to my boy Steve Nash, one of the most underrated point guards ever, in my opinion. Talk about, remember 50-40-90 Club, Billy. Steve Nash was a
Just the head of that club, I think.
he was in it often. Let's just say that, folks. But Billy, I'd like to hear your thoughts on SGA being the MVP. I know you fall along into the lines of the sentiment that it could be voter fatigue. I know that is a big discussion that is currently ongoing right now. Just like to hear your thoughts on that and if you agree with that.
First off, congratulations to SGA. Um, you got to give props where props are due, but like you said, maybe it's me being a little bit biased, but I struggle with this one. I am still a firm believer that Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA. Obviously, it's hard to compare the stats a whole lot when they play two completely different positions and two completely different styles of play. but we haven't seen a big man dominate the league for this long since probably Shaq. And even then, it's like obviously Shaq's game was completely different. He was going to back you down and you know barbecue chicken you, and so he's going to eat you up. Jokic is a crafty guy. You never know when he's going to shoot the ball, when he's going to pass the ball. And just when I look overall at just like where who's stat leading and stuff like that, SGA only led 4 categories better than Jokic out of every single category. Jokic led in 12 categories higher than SGA. At what, like you said, at what point is it voter fatigue where they just don't want to see this boring old white guy throwing up hook shots and stuff? He's the best player in the NBA, and I'm going to stand on that. I like obviously the Thunder had a little bit better output and showed up in the playoffs a little bit better than we could have. So I can't hate to say it. Like they were a better team. They got us right. They're a better team. They edged us out in 7 games. Props to the Thunder. Props to SGA. I think he's deserving? Yes. Do I think he should have won it? No.
I love that you're being honest, Billy. You know what I mean? Because you got to represent, stick up for your team, right? Your
Crazy.
players. But I got to keep it real with you, Billy. You are wrong, my friend. With all due respect, as the great Mark Jackson would say. So, uh, SGA is more than deserving of this award. You are correct, but he should have absolutely won this award, and let me tell you why, Billy. So, I'm sure you remember this, the old Uncle Drew commercial, right? Kyrie Irving as Uncle
Oh yeah.
Drew, and he had the talk with the late great Bill Russell, I believe,
Yeah.
and they said the game has always been and will always be about getting buckets, right?
That's word for word. That's quote for quote.
Yeah, so I know we always harp on, we like defense and being affect the game on both ends of the court, but at the end of the day, you got to be able to put the ball in the hoop. SGA not only led the league in scoring at 32.7 points per game, Billy, but he was first in field goals made throughout the whole league. He had the most 20-point games, the most 30-point games, the most 40-point games, and where do you think I'm going with this next?
Free
The
throw.
most 50-point games. Oh yeah, yes, and the most free throws. Okay, yeah, you could call him a foul merchant, blah blah blah. I even Doris Burke surprisingly brought that up on air. I was like, what?
Really?
But hey, I mean, I'm gonna keep it real again, Billy. I agree. SGA does foul bait with certain plays, but with Jokic, for him being as dominant and big as he is, he does flop himself a little bit if we're keeping it real. Like you look at some of these plays, you're like, there's no way these small guards should be able to toss him to the ground. Like Caruso, like really, like Caruso's gonna throw Jokic to the ground. Like, come on, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So, like, we're just keeping it real here. I mean, there's flopping in basketball. It is what it is. But anyway, the point remains that SGA not only was the best scorer this year, he was the best scorer on the best team from a record standpoint, right? Number 1 seed in the West,
Yeah.
and right now he has his team up 3-1 in the Western Conference Finals. So I had to play devil's advocate with you there, Billy, as to why it was the right decision in SGA being the MVP this year.
Yeah, I agree. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I didn't say it was like not completely one sided, even though I am a little bit. You're right. Like, I would say Jokic does get a lot of like he flops a lot. Like, you see the head crazy head movements, the hands go up. I see it. He sees it. But he's also the person in the NBA that you'll watch and he just has claw marks and gashes like all over his body, on his arms, and you're like, he's obviously getting fouled some way or the other. And I do think like obviously as he does flop a lot, he does not get as many calls as he probably should.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that. And in the same breath, you look at some of these calls SGA gets, and you're like, what happened to the beautiful game that I loved? You know what I mean?
Yeah, in the 80s, in the 80s, that's great D, baby.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But anyway, congrats to SGA being the MVP of the 2024-25 regular season. Uh, Ending the streak of front court players dominating the MVP. So up and up for the guards. Now an update on the playoffs and the conference finals. So speaking of the Western Conference Finals, like we said, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they are currently up in the Western Conference Finals. They are up 3-1 on the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Thunder won Game 4 yesterday, 128 to 126, behind 40 points, Billy, from SGA. So went out of his mind there. SGA went 13 of 30 from the field and 12 of 14 from the charity stripe.
Admire the consistency, though. I do say
Yeah.
I think he was right around 90% free throw shooting. SU was so.
Hmm.
At least he's making them when he gets to the line.
Right. He's converting them, which counts big time. So over in the Eastern Conference, though, Billy, the Indiana Pacers are up 2-1 on the New York Knicks. Uh, that said, the Knicks did overcome a 16-point deficit to win Game 3 on the road. That score ended up being 106 to 100. Karl Anthony Towns had a game high 24 points on 8 of 17 shooting. Game 4 is tonight, Billy, uh, at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, our time. So I believe that it'll be around 7 o'clock, right there in Indiana,
I think so. Yeah, they're on Central. Yeah, yeah. Pretty sure.
Central Time. Yes. So, Billy, I'd like to hear your prediction for that game there in Indiana. You got the Pacers, or do you think the Knicks will even the series up?
I really like this matchup, and I think it's been a hard fought matchup. Like every game has been fairly close. Like obviously, like when we watched Game 2 or Game 3, when the Timberwolves, I think they won by 30 against the Thunder in that game, and then all of a sudden, they're right back at it. These games have been within 5-10 points. I feel like pretty consistently. Um, I like the Pacers in this matchup. I think they're on a hot streak. I think they're playing with the chip on their shoulder, right? Like obviously we saw the Reggie Miller, the choke that we all thought was a three, but was the two to tie it in game one.
Yes.
Um, so I like that they're playing with the chip on their shoulder. I need I think for the Knicks to win, I think they really need Brunson to step up and do a consistent like what he's been doing. Obviously, those 30-40 point games, I think those are going to keep him right there. But I think the Pacers defense is getting the best of the Knicks a little bit. I think they're beating them up a little bit down low, and I think their matchups down low is something that the Knicks weren't expecting. I think they thought that it was going to be. I think they thought they were going to be able to walk all over him in the paint a little bit.
No, yeah, you hit it on the head there, Billy. The specifically with the matchups, just how difficult it's been for the Knicks to defend all that different uh versatility that the Pacers have. They got length out there with their forwards, specifically in their front court. Miles Turner, Siakam, and when they have Toppin in the game, right? Like those are all very lanky guys. Like they could all stretch the floor.
Yeah,
So it's causing the Knicks to, especially when Mitchell Robinson's in the game, right? He's having to really come outside unless he switches and then just roams around the paint area, try to protect the rim. So it's just, man, going back to that game one, that Halliburton uh, shot to ultimately send it to overtime. Everyone thought it was a game. I thought it was a game winner.
I
Like
thought.
when I was watching it,
Oh yeah,
like,
back rim, the ball bounced like another 10 feet up.
yeah, mm-hmm.
Felt like it took forever to hit the net, and then it was just cash. It was wild, dude. That shit was crazy.
I mean, we could get into the whole thing of maybe it was a possible carry or, I mean, not carry, a double dribble or travel, but hey, that's not my call.
No,
That
that's not
wasn't my call to
referees.
make. Yeah. But I was like, oh my God, he's gonna get to the basket, all the way to tie it, and then he just like stepped back, which I was like, which was insane.
What?
And
Yeah,
yeah, and Turner was open. He was like, pass me the ball, pass me the ball, pass me the ball. Like even when the shot was in the air, he was still had his hands like that. And Halliburton just shot it, and literally just everyone was looking up like,
Is
Is the
this ever
ball
going
could
to
have,
come down? Yeah, for real.
and then ultimately, they go on to win in overtime, and then they still game two in New York. So, um, I'm with you there, Billy. I think the Pacers are gonna win and ultimately go up 3 games to 1. I think they're gonna head back to New York with a chance to close it out. They just seem like the fresher team. They seem like they're more in sync with what they're doing offensively and defensively from a schematic standpoint. And man,
And
it's hard to really go against the Pacers at the moment, even though they did lose uh, game three and they were up 16, like we said. But with that being said, I still think they're gonna get the job done in game four.
right, and I think what the crazy thing to me is like obviously it's the bench for the Pacers that matters. Like obviously
Yeah,
they're getting more playing time, which is making obviously they're riding their starting lineup, 35 minutes plus a game. But you look at their bench guys, they're getting almost 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. When you're able to rest your starting guys and your best guys for a few, handful more minutes a game, they're gonna play. They're gonna be the fresher team. They're gonna be able to play better defense. They're gonna be able to have more focus coming down from a fast break on the other side of the court. They're just gonna be not even in better shape, just ready. You know what I mean? So that's where I think the Pacers are going to come out and just be the stronger team tonight. That bench is going to be able to come out and give them some rest.
man, no, that's a great point there with the bench, Billy, because I was pulling it up now to dive further into that for you. So when you look at the Knicks bench here, this last game, miraculously, Thibodeau finally played more than two, three guys off the bench. He went four guys off the bench. And uh, Josh Hart logged the most minutes, 34 minutes off the bench. But the guy that I was surprised to see get more minutes was DeLon Wright. You know, uh, a physical point of attack defender off the bench. Uh, he only had 13 minutes, only made one field goal, but that's just, trying to find something right when you're down 2-0 and it's essentially a must-win game. You need to figure something out rotation wise, and we look here, uh Bridges and Anunoby played 37 minutes, Towns 33 minutes, Bruns 31 minutes, and then Robinson only played 29 minutes.
Right.
So, and then when we look on the flip side here with the Pacers, they had they went 5 players deep, uh, bench wise, and 4 of the 5 played 15 or more minutes. So they essentially played a quarter and some change each. You know what I mean? So like you're saying, that allows your starters to get some rest, and then they're ready to go in those during those closing stretches of the fourth quarter. So great points there, Billy. Next up, we got some MLB to discuss, and we got a great segment here, folks. So we got players who are trending up, and we also got players who are trending down. So first, we like to start with the players who are trending in a positive direction currently. And at the moment, Billy, I feel it would be a disservice to not mention these 3 players, Billy. And the first player I'd like to give or highlight is Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Apologies if I mispronounce that name. It is a hard name to say. Everyone just calls him Yamamoto by his last name, right, Billy?
Absolutely.
Uh, Starting pitcher for the LA Dodgers, folks. He is currently 6-3 on the year. He has a 1.97 ERA, Billy, which is the sixth best in all of the bigs, and he has a 0.91 WHIP. So what a WHIP is, folks, is walks, hits per innings pitched. So for every inning that he pitches, he is giving up less than one hit, one walk or hit combined. So talk
Yeah.
about dominating. each and every inning when he steps out onto the mound. He has the fifth best whip right now, Billy, and his opponents are only hitting 170 against him. He went 6 innings last night versus the Guardians, held him to 3 hits, and he did give up 2 runs, but he had 7 Ks. Nonetheless, his ERA is still under 2, so shout out to Yamamoto. He is pitching lights out, and this is refreshing to see specifically for him, and because when his last year when he first came over, he struggled a bit to adjust, right, coming over from Japan.
He did.
Uh, High expectations on him, right? And with that Dodgers starting rotation being injured, it kind of propelled him into being the number one guy, like probably sooner than he expected, right, Billy?
Yep.
Because of with him coming over. And but hey, he delivered when it came to the postseason, got it done, and right now he's pitching with swagger. He has confidence, and he's one of the most like non-hittable pitchers, right, Billy? Like when he's dealing, this guy is filthy. He has a tremendous arsenal, and he's not afraid to throw any pitch in any count. High leverage counts, like it doesn't matter. He'll throw any pitch he wants. He's that confident in his ability.
I feel like that could be said for almost any pitcher stepping on the mound for the Dodgers at this point in time. When you have 6 All-Stars in your starting lineup, you know the run support is going to be there, that you just got to kind of do your back end stuff. And it seems like Yamamoto is feeling himself, like you were saying. He is
Hmm.
up there. He's pitching with confidence. He's throwing 2-0 changeups, 2-0 sliders for strikes just to get, and that messes with the hitter's mind so much where it's like, I know he's got to try to groove a fastball here. And then you're out in front or you're not even swinging and you're like, what the? This guy's just going up there and just throwing. Every pitch is with confidence it's crazy. And like you were saying with his whip, I didn't even look up that stat before this. That is nuts. And to think that he's only the fifth best whip in the MLB is surprising. And that just blows my mind a little bit.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, Billy, as a very, 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 very below somewhat average hitter myself. 2-0 breaking stuff is why I have trust issues in this world.
Dude, to this day. To this day.
That's what I'm saying, right? You could attest to that. But uh, another pitcher, Billy, that has been trending upwards and will definitely be an all-star, probably even could be uh, all MLB is Andres Munoz for the Seattle Mariners, their closer. Billy, talk about being electric. This guy is perfect in save situations. He's 17 for 17, which leads all of MLB. But Billy, he has tossed 22 and a third innings. He has not given up a run. His ERA is 0.
That's some young Aroldis Chapman type numbers. Like that's
That's Rivera type stuff,
that's Mariano. That's true.
which
I mean,
is like
like Omar. You
if I'm
think K-Rod,
if I'm out
right?
of pocket for saying that, like if I'm out of pocket for saying that, like you know what I mean. I apologize, but like
As a Yankees fan, that might offend people.
that's what. But like you know what I mean. Like who's throwing 22 innings scoreless with 17 for 17 saves, right?
Right. Not too many. I know Edwin Diaz is thrown well. I think he's probably 13 or 14 for 14, but
Maybe Hater,
right. Yeah, yeah, that's fair. That's a good pick. I didn't even think about that. But you're right though. This is
Class
generational.
A,
Yeah, this is generational type numbers.
up to this point,
Right.
right? We should
You
say.
think of K Rod. You think of Aroldis Chapman in his prime. If you're hey, if this guy can consistently have, I forget what World Series it was, but there was I forget what closer even. I'm not even, maybe I won't even talk about it. Jesus.
For the Giants,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I can't remember his fucking name. But he
with
had
a beard,
yeah,
Yeah,
Wilson.
Brian Wilson.
That was the person. I was I remember he had a specific year where it was he was almost 30 for 30 going into save situations within the last it was in 120 games or something like that. It was
Yeah.
oh my god, that is absolutely nuts. if you're up by a run going into your last two innings, this guy is gonna win the game. Like he will win the
Yeah,
game.
no, definitely, and that just makes like your ball club that more confident. You're like, oh my gosh, we got a lockdown guy coming out of the pin, so if we have a lead, we're gonna win this game.
We're gonna
You
win.
know what I mean? Because there's nothing worse than you having a lead and then you're like worrying if the staff is gonna come through, right, Billy? You
Oh,
could definitely speak to that being a catcher and having to call the pitches, right?
especially at Adam State. No disrespect to my pitching staff. Love you guys. I blocked thousands of
Eh.
calls for you from bullpens, everything, so I can talk a little bit of shit here. But like no, like you're right. There's nothing worse than you with a pitcher that's coming in and he's throwing up warm up pitches in. One's in the dirt, one's in the left-hander's batter's box, one's up.
Yeah,
And you're like, he threw one strike out of those 8 pitches, man. Like, all right, got everybody be on your toes. We're playing to contact here at that point when and it's such a confidence boost, even for your defense of like, hey, I'm gonna go make a play versus rather than like, all right, like let's see where it goes.
yeah, definitely. So we'll see how long Munoz continues to pitch the ball lights out. Uh, on the other side of the diamond, though, Billy, offensively, we got someone who is doing great things. We'll get into your person here shortly. That's going to be a great conversation. But Pete Crow Armstrong of the Chicago Cubs, their center fielder, he is having a tremendous year, Billy. He is currently hitting 280, but he has 14 home runs, which is currently has him tied for eighth. He has 48 runs batted in, which has him second. And over his last 4 games, Billy, he has 9 ribbies. So talk about someone who's producing at the plate. The Cubbies are 33 and 21 overall, and they are 8 and 2 in their last 10. So Crow Armstrong probably should be on his way to an All-Star nod this year over in the NL.
Yeah.
And I mean, we want to talk about outfield platoon, Billy. The Cubs have a great outfield across the board there. They got what Suzuki in left field, Crow Armstrong there in center, and then they got Kyle Tucker in right field. Like,
And dude, I was the one saying like when Kyle Tucker became a free agent, I wish I could have called Steve Cohen on the phone and pleaded my life to pick up Kyle Tucker. He is such a good left-handed stick in the lineup, and like the dude swings it with no batting gloves. I respect the hell out of that. But ultimately,
ball
like
player, ball
that was
player.
the guy, dude. That was the guy. Like out of the Astros, it was like I hate the Astros. Hard to hate Kyle Tucker. Hard to hate him.
Definitely. And I mean, I'm sure he's going to be a pick for Team USA for the World Baseball Classic.
I'd be astounded if he doesn't.
Yeah, definitely. Talk about having hard decisions to make for that outfield. There's a handful of players who could definitely be on that roster there. But and I mean, the hard part is too, we know the right field's already locked because their captain is Aaron Judge. So like is I'm sure Tucker probably could play left field, right? I'm sure he can.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, a corner outfield's a corner outfield, right? Like, obviously, you play the wall different, you play a little bit differently, but it is roughly the same mechanics.
I guess the only aspect that really differs is like angles, right? Like so, like
Fair.
obviously if you're playing right field, you want a lefty playing just so if there's a ball deep in the corner, a little bit easier to throw if you have if you're trying to, I guess, relay home, right?
Yeah.
Correct?
Yep.
And then obviously vice versa there in left field, you want a righty, blah blah blah. But if you're a stud and you get the job done, it doesn't matter. They'll play you in either corner spot, right,
Yeah,
Billy?
they'll figure it out.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, perfect. I wanted to jump into my sections. I actually only have two players that I wanted to jump on.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sorry there, Billy. Pause there for a moment. So yeah, uh, Billy, I'd love to hear who you have uh, player wise for players who are maybe trending upwards, and I'd love to hear your selection for a player who is unfortunately trending down.
I got you. I got you with this. All right, so first person I want to reckon out has had a great last probably 10 to 15 games. And the person I'm going to shout out is Freddie Freeman. Obviously, I've talked about Freddie Freeman before. one of the most clutch all-time hitters in my mind. Within his last 15 games, he's been batting 363. He's hit 6 home runs in 15 games. He's got 35 RBIs. So he started out the season a little bit slow, um, but a tale as old as time. Give Freddie enough time, and he will hit the ball. I think, like, obviously being that lefty stick in the lineup for the Dodgers. The dude already has 35 RBIs on the year. He's going to be set for 100, 120 RBIs near the end of the if he stays healthy. Obviously, knock on wood there. But overall, that Dodgers ball club is they're it's an all-star team at this point in time. You look at every portion of the lineup, the roster, the rotation, the bullpen is probably where they're lacking just a little bit. Kind of unreal.
No, definitely unreal. Like Freeman, what he's doing, right? And how star-studded that lineup is. Freeman is an absolute star in his own right, and he is like goes unnoticed at times because everything, all the attention goes to Otani, and rightfully so. But there's also Betts in that lineup, like you know what I mean. There's Teoscar Hernandez is another guy. I mean, that guy won the the home run derby last year, like,
He did,
and then
yeah.
in the postseason he had multiple like clutch home runs. So, and he just got his big payday this past offseason. So Dodgers ultimately had to, bring him back. He was a vital piece. So there is a handful of players in that lineup. And yeah, Billy, you are absolutely correct that Freddie Freeman is still like it's a tale as old as time, right? Like Freddie Freeman is gonna get the job done.
That's what he do. That's what he.
And it's so crazy, but like we go back to like Atlanta did not want to pay him.
Well, I remember hearing that whole thing with his agent. Do you remember that?
He was like, yeah, let's like he'll take less money, right? Like, but like don't disrespect him though, right? Like that was pretty much like the gist of it.
That so there was like two rumors that I heard. Like one was that Freddie Freeman wanted to stay with the Braves his whole career. He'll take less money. He wanted to make kind of a franchise move type kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then his agent was basically telling him the money's too low. The money's too low without him seeing physical offers. And then basically his agent wanted to move to LA, so he was like, "Dude, this 395 million seems pretty cool.
Oh, so
I'll
his
take
agent kind
10%."
of did him a little dirty,
Yeah,
huh?
he
Yeah.
did him a little dirty.
Oh
Um,
man.
it's for another time. But from a next player, he's only played 5 games, but I'm going to read you some stats from his last and only 5 games has played is Ronald Acuna Jr. Coming back from an ACL injury, this was his first, or like I said, 5 games ago. So about 3 to 4 days ago was his first day back. He comes out, first at bat, first pitch he sees, home run. Next day, second pitch he sees in his first at bat, home run. We'll see you later. So within his last 5 ball games, he's batting 333. He's got 6 hits. Already has 2 home runs, 3 RBIs. He's scored 3 times in overall runs, and he's got 1 walk. He has K'd up a little bit. He's got 7 Ks. But ultimately, I think this is a great start and a great pace to see. I think it's bringing life to the Atlanta Braves. I think it's bringing life to the stadium as well. I think the people around are they got their guy back. You know what I mean? So he's also stolen a base within his time in that 6 games too. So it looks like he might be becoming the player of old where he was, the 50-50 kind of guy. So I'd love to see where that kind of turns out too. But Matt, let me hear your thoughts here on this 5 games coming back.
Baseball is in a better place when you have stars like Acuna who is taking the field. This guy is electric, Billy. Arguably the most electric player in the game, and I say that knowing there's Judge and Otani out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you look at Acuna, like five-tool player, even for a guy his size, he's still a home run threat. When he was the MVP, he was the first guy to be a member of the 40-70 club. 40 home runs, 70 stolen bases. You know what I mean? And then, of course, Otani follows that up being the 50-50 club. But like 40-70 is still insane. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
Like, especially in a day and age where you rarely see guys getting over 50 stolen bags, right, Billy? Like
Rare.
back in the day, we had Ricky Henderson stealing well over 80, 90 bags, and like it just seems like a lost art now, right? The base stealing, like
It truly
first of
is.
all, you got to have obviously great speed, but got to have great jumps, right? And Acuna does that. He times lefties, he times righties. It doesn't matter. Slide step, uh, high leg lift. It doesn't matter.
It
This
doesn't matter. It's
like
still swiping them.
yeah, he's collecting bags, especially when he gets to first base if you walk him. Like, that's a nightmare for pitchers. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Absolutely.
But yeah, Acuna is so fun to watch play, and he is such a dynamic player. I am not surprised at all that he went yard in his first two ABs.
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
I
Like
don't know, was it consecutive ABs or was it just consecutive games?
consecutive games. It was his first at
Okay,
bat in
yeah,
consecutive games.
yeah. Anyway, either way, it's still like, you know what I mean? It's not surprising to me. Like, that's what you expect to see when Acuna steps on the field. Like, he's that great of a player. And the uh, we talked about this previously. Like, the Braves were kind of, we were like, what's going on with the Braves? You know what I mean? But they're also trending in a positive direction. And now you get Acuna back, who's gonna continue doing those type of things. Like, bro, look out for the Braves. That's all I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. They're going to be back at it. And then for my last piece here on players who are not playing that great right now, I
I
love
know
them
this
to
is
death.
very unfortunate, right, Billy, for you?
I love them to death. But Juan Soto isn't playing great baseball at this point in time. So I pulled up in reference to some of the last 5 games stats for Ronald Acuna. These are the last 10 game stats for Juan Soto. 10 game stats for Juan Soto. He's batting 243. Ooh. He's got 9 hits. He has been hitting a little bit more of the long ball in his last 10 games. He's got 3 of them, but it's few and some in between. You know what I mean? He's got 6 RBIs. He's got 9 walks, but 9 Ks, which we are not used to seeing a whole lot from Juan Soto. He's not a huge K guy, and for his last 10 games to be striking out 1 to 2 times a game, it's something that's got to be playing with his confidence because I've been
Hmm.
seeing him at the plate. He's not Soto shuffling. He doesn't look like he's completely himself in the box. Um, he did get a stolen base, which surprised me because he's a average speed guy at best. But I guess when you're not producing, you got to do something to spark the game.
Hmm.
I hate to say it, like it breaks my heart. We paid him a lot of money. I think he's going to turn. I know he's going to turn the season around. And luckily, the Mets have been playing good in his demise. We're a top 5 team in baseball, which is like I'll take that. That's a blessing. Uh,
Hmm.
but I have high hopes for when he does turn it around. I think he is going to be that guy when he's back to himself, hitting 330, even that 300 realm where he's putting balls out of the seats every 5, 6 games. I think that's where the Mets are going to see that jump, and especially with the surprise where the Mets pitching staff is right now. If they can stay solid and he turns it around, where the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I have yet to wrap my head around the fact that Juan Soto is struggling at this rate, Billy. Like, I think the pressure has uh really gotten to him signing that massive contract that he did. So
So
that 15 years, $765 million contract that he signed, like there's a lot of expectations, man, that come with someone making that type of money. I mean, we talk about someone who's making $51 million a year, Billy.
that's
Like,
that's pressure, man. If you're not producing, that's pressure.
and in New York, I mean, no matter what, even though he's not on the Yankees, the Mets still being there in New York, that's pressure, really, right?
100%. And like I think the saying goes, pressure makes diamonds, but pressure also bursts pipes.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta figure out what side you're gonna be on, and like obviously he's gonna fall
Definitely.
towards the producing side, but a bit of a slump right now, and like I think he had a small period with the Yankees where he slumped. It was a 2 or 3 week period where like
Yeah.
you also had Aaron Judge in your lineup to back you up, so he kind of got overlooked a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. But the thing though with Soto, Billy, so through 53 games played, he is only hitting 233, which is very considering the fact that he's mostly been around 300, right, for his career. Like this guy sees the ball well, he puts the ball in play, like he's gonna get on base, like always has a high on base percentage, but he's typically a great hitter in that aspect where he's hitting for average. He's always around 300. 233 is starting to get kind of worrisome in terms of, man, this guy is rarely finding his way onto the bases, it seems. He only has 8 home runs and 25 RBIs, Billy. So, man, I also believe he's gonna, get out of this slump, so to speak. He's too talented of a player, too great of a hitter not to get out of that slump. Same thing like when we first talked about Rafael Devers to begin the year. Now you look at him, this dude's crushing grand slams. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Uh, that discussion for another day. But getting back to Soto, really all it takes is a series for him to really find his groove, right? To really see the ball well, get a couple of extra base hits, even if he's not getting on base, just barrel the ball up, right? Just hit some balls hard into the outfield, make it where the defense has to make a play, right? Where they're not just stationary. If you're finding good contact, that could spark you. And even if it's a single, right? A hard hit single gets
like
you on base. Like that's all it takes, really. So we'll see if Soto bounces back, Billy. But I know Mets fandom is
hurting a
on the
little bit right
kind of on edge right now, right, Billy?
scared. We're scared.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll see how it ultimately ends up for Juan Soto. So, like we said, 15 years, $765 million, Billy. My gosh,
It's a lot of check.
I would freak out like having to live up to that pressure. And then especially if my signing bonus was, I believe, 75 million.
I can't even imagine myself with an eighth of that money.
Right? 16th, huh?
Seriously, I'm
16th of
like,
that.
just cut me off the sliver. Just
Mm,
that's crazy.
anything. Up next, folks, we got some NFL offseason news. So, over in the Bay Area, the San Francisco 49ers have extended two of their key pieces, and it comes on each side of the football, Billy. So, first off, quarterback Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers agreed to a 5-year, $265 million contract, which makes Purdy one of the highest paid QBs in the league. Um, Tremendous accomplishment for Purdy in terms of getting his money.
Get your bag, boy.
This, yeah, exactly. This guy was a seventh round pick, Billy, in the 2022 draft. He was the 262nd pick.
He was Mr. Irrelevant. Is that correct? Right?
Yes, yes, that is indeed correct. So for him to go from that to 265 million, hey man, you got to respect that, right?
Dude, this guy's got a
Congrats to
good
him.
agent. This guy's agent is.
Right?
But my thoughts on the quarterback piece, like, I think Brock Purdy's an average quarterback. I think Brock Purdy's going to make the right decision 80% of the time.
Hmm.
Is he a spark to your offensive lineup? No, but he's consistent. Consistent enough, I should say. I don't personally like it. I think you spend that money elsewhere, and like I think the San Francisco Niners have been a team that's been fighting the borderline of championships for a minute.
Hmm.
Like you have Christian McCaffrey, you got a lot of the right pieces in play. I don't
Just
know.
can't get over that hump, right?
Right, like you're right. Like, and then it's like I don't know if Brock Purdy's the guy that's going to get you to that next level.
Yeah, and then now you make him the seventh highest paid quarterback in the league. So he's going to be making $53 million a year, Billy, which puts him behind Dak Prescott, who makes the most at 60 million, Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and Jordan Love each make 55 million, and Trevor Lawrence, excuse me. So those four quarterbacks all make 55 million. Dak's making 60. Tua is making 53.1.
Wow.
And then
Wow.
you get Brock Purdy and Jared Goff making 53 million. So $53 million, Billy, for a quarterback who in 15 games played this past season threw for 3,864 yards, had a 65.9 completion percentage, and only had 20 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. Or not only 12 touchdowns
Right.
to 12 interceptions.
Yeah, it's not a
Uh,
great differential.
yeah, not at all. And he only had five rushing touchdowns. So, uh, is that a contract that warrants that those type or should I say those statistics does do those statistics warrant that type of contract, right, Billy? So
I don't think so.
yeah, Purdy was sacked a career high 31 times this past year. His previous high was 28 the year before, and Billy he had 11 less touchdowns than the year prior. So he had 31 touchdowns in 2023. He only had 20 in 2024, and that resulted in a $265 million contract. However, McCaffrey was gone for majority of the year. They did always deal with injuries to uh what was it, Debo Samuels, Trent Williams, right? I believe maybe missed some time there on the
Yep.
line. Um, but that said, though, Niners still have a lot of tremendous players at you know at key positions. Trent Williams being one of the most, if not the most dominant left tackle in the game. George Kittle being arguably one of the top three best tight ends. Some people even say he's the best tight end just because he's able to be such a tremendous blocker, right? And then the guy that we're about to talk about defensively is probably the best at his position. So, I mean, the Niners have a lot of key pieces. It's just, is Purdy going to be that guy that gets the job done? You feel he's not, correct?
I don't think he is.
Got you. And I'm on the fence about it. I don't think he is either. That all being said, I am happy that he got his money though.
True.
So, sticking with the Niners, folks, they also dished out another heavy extension, and this comes on the defensive side of the ball. Linebacker Fred Warner agreed to a 3-year, $65 million extension with 56.7 million guaranteed. Warner now becomes the highest paid linebacker, and Billy, I am absolutely 100% okay with that. Like, you look at Fred Warner, that dude is a football player, and he plays arguably the most important position on defense. I know a lot of people probably say defensive end or maybe cornerback, right? But this guy is the middle linebacker, calling the plays. He's reading the coverages. He's directing traffic, and he's making plays when they need to be made.
Now he's that defensive guy that you want. He reminds you of that leader like a Luke Kuechly or a Brian Urlacher. Like he brings that energy to the team, and
Hmm.
people respect it.
No, definitely. Uh, Fred Warner has four straight seasons, Billy, with 130 plus tackles. So talk about getting to the ball and getting him to the ground, especially in a day and age where uh, you see a lot of defensive players that don't wrap up anymore
Yep.
on the tackle. They just try to hit you. No one is, well, man, there's a big reason why there's not a lot of tackles being made anymore. Everyone's scared to hit because they're scared to get fined, right?
I mean, that's just how it is. The NFL's gotten soft these days.
Yeah.
It's just
Nonetheless, though, Warner 130 plus tackles is insane. You know what I mean? And Billy, he's had 7 straight years with 115 plus tackles.
that's true. That's
And yeah, he's also had consecutive seasons, Billy, with four forced fumbles. So not only is he making tackles, he's also punching the ball out. So he's creating turnovers. And speaking of turnovers, he also has 6 interceptions over the last 2 seasons. So he is getting to the ball, forcing the ball out, and then he's also not bad in coverage with 6 interceptions. That extension is definitely
That's warranted.
deserved.
That's warranted.
Yes, for
100%.
sure.
I believe in that. I think, that's the person you want to align with your defense and how you want to carry that team. I think that's exactly what you want. And I think the Niners have always been known for kind of that defensive element. And so,
Hmm. Yeah, smart move by San Fran by extending Warner there, especially with them losing a bunch of defensive players. I believe the other linebacker, was it Dre Greenlaw? Uh, he just went to the Broncos, I believe. Yeah, so that's all we got today, folks. Great discussion with you today, Billy. We talked about some players over in the MLB who are trending upwards. We also had a surprise player who's trending downwards. We're both sure that he's going to turn it around at some point. We also talked about SGA being the MVP over in the NBA, along with the recent playoff series going on for the conference finals. The Knicks currently down over in the East to the Indiana Pacers. Over in the West, we got the Minnesota Timberwolves who are down to the Thunder led by SGA. Over in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark will be out for at least 2 weeks. And then Napheesa Collier and the Minnesota Lynx off to tremendous starts, just playing great basketball. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments below, folks. We'd love to widen that discussion. Love to hear what you say or have to say. Let us know if we're missing anything. Be sure to follow us on our social media platforms. We'll be sure to put that on the screen and along in the description over on Spotify and YouTube. Appreciate it. Give us a thumbs up. Turn on that notification bell for alerts. Please subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you next time on the Matt Gets It podcast. See ya.